It's a Monday edition of Locked On Grizzlies. The dynamic duo rides again. Jaylen Wells shows out against the Charlotte Hornets in a loss for Memphis. How could he possibly get into the opening night rotation? We're also going to talk about Zach Edey being a great sharer, surprisingly, at least for one night. And we'll preview Grizzlies Pacers tonight. Let's lock in on this Monday.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of Locked On Grizzlies. I am one of your hosts, Ja Mullinax. Been away for a couple of shows. Again, this is the busy time of year for me with my football season. Very grateful to have a understanding and supportive co-host in Damichael of the Commercial Appeal there in Memphis, Tennessee, who also is beginning his busy time of year. So not the best time for both of us to be.
It's that time of the year again, yeah.
But we're making it work, and I appreciate Damichael, and I appreciate you, dear listener, dear viewer, for being with us here on another episode of Locked On Grizzlies. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts as proud members of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every single day. Like, comment, rate, review, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon. Love to have those audio subscriptions, of course. But, Damichael, I have to give you your props.
We did it.
You laid down the gauntlet. And again, you had the last couple episodes on your own. You said by the end of the week, the last time we were together, you wanted the YouTube number over 4,000, and our wonderful audience delivered. So thank you to everybody getting us over 4,000 before the season even begins. We got a whole week, right? We got 9 days still until opening night, and we're over 4,000. So we blew that goal away. Much appreciated. Thank you to everybody again. YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, wherever you get a podcast, make sure you're making Locked On Grizzlies part of your NBA and Memphis Grizzlies content consumption every single day. Damichael, the Grizzlies played a basketball game on Saturday night against the Charlotte Hornets. We could break down that game. I think
Chicago Bulls. This was the.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This was the Bulls.
It's that time of the year.
It's a crazy time of year, but I'm gonna just let that ride, to be honest with you, because it just shows how little I care about who the opponent is. All right, how little I care about the opponent.
You mean you didn't care to see Zach LaVine just torching them like that?
No, because that's Zach LaVine's MO. He's going to show up and
there you go.
When it doesn't matter, Zach LaVine is going to look like an all-star, and then as the season actually grinds along, he's going to fade to the distance. So forgive me for not caring about the opponent. Chicago Bulls were the team that knocked off the Grizzlies. And my big thing coming out of this game, because I did actually watch highlights, I just literally don't care about the way that the opponent plays. Jaylen Wells looked impressive, right? I do want to stress, in the interest of honesty, given this time of year for me, it was just highlights on this Saturday night. But what I saw of Wells was extremely impressive in terms of his ability to find his spot. You talked about how he made a big three-pointer there at the end, and the ice water in his veins. He's done that numerous times now. Doesn't seem to shrink away from the moment, going all the way back to Summer League when he would do similar things. I am becoming more and more interested in a reality where Jaylen Wells is that G.G. Jackson, that Vince Williams, perhaps, to start the season, rotation replacement. I don't think Jake LaRavia and John Conchar are the guys to do it. John Conchar, I will never think is the guy to do it. Jake LaRavia, I don't know. He just seems so uneven, uneasy. I know they like his defensive potential. I see Jaylen Wells as someone that is worthy of investment in that spot during this time period. Again, Vince Williams Jr. should be back way before Gigi is. I'm more intrigued in giving Wells that opportunity. I've seen LaRavia. I've seen Conchar. I kind of want to see what the new kid can do.
If we're talking rotation, which is regular season rotation,
right
at this point,
and again, acknowledging the injuries that are currently in play.
Those three guys that you said, John Conchar, Jake LaRavia, Jaylen Wells, they're pretty much kind of competing for one spot that's probably going to end up going to Vince Williams Jr. When the team is at full health. So all things considered, yeah, like you said, Jaylen Wells, like an impressive performance on Saturday against the Bulls. Up and down at times. There were some shots in the first half, where his shot selection wasn't great. But at the same time, for a coach like Taylor Jenkins, that might puzzle him a little bit. But for me, I'm looking at that and I'm green lighting it. Yeah, you probably like Damichael what? But I'm green lighting it because this is a confidence thing to me. And how I break this down is, I always say with the rookies, the number one thing to me, I got to see is confidence. If you're a rookie and it's like, man, this guy in college, he was, hoisting up threes and not even thinking about it. Now with the Grizzlies, he's pump faking every time he gets an open shot and stuttering his feet and things like that. And then I'm a little worried. But, you're not getting that with Jaylen Wells. And he's talked about his confidence. You're seeing his confidence. You talked about that three he made at the end of the game, there against the Bulls in that 21-point comeback win. And the three that he made, drifting towards the right wing, you saw him raise both of his arms up to kind of signal that he was open, and the defense was closing out, but he was locked in on the basket, held his pose, knocked down the shot. But listening to Taylor Jenkins after the game, what impressed Taylor Jenkins even more so was the fact that the play that happened right before that, Malzino Pereira makes the three-pointer. Who kicks it out to him in the corner? It was Jaylen Wells. You said we're going to talk about this a little bit coming up with our guy, Zach Edey, but Jaylen Wells, 6 assists. 6 assists in that game, 24 points.
I like that.
But 6 assists, and this is from a guy who is pretty much known as a shooter. This is from a guy who said, hey, I'm going to come to Memphis. I'm going to space the floor. So you don't think he's going to get a lot of times to put the ball on the floor. But with all that being said, Joe, we got to see it a little bit more consistently in order for him to crack the rotation. And you know how I like to preface these things. I'm in the head of Taylor Jenkins here. If you ask me for my opinion, I'm getting closer to saying, yes, I think the rookie should be the one who gets the first crack, but I'm not there yet either. But I know Taylor Jenkins isn't there yet for a fact. I think right now, Joe, you're not going to love this, but
White Rice himself.
It's, hey, man, White Rice. I think
delicious.
At this point in time, John Conchar has the inside track for that spot. John Conchar was a guy who just played some backup point guard in that game against the Bulls, and he also and he's shooting the ball a little bit more. But the rebounding, too, is a thing. This team right now, especially with the second unit. Joe, this is the second unit right now, Joe. Let me give you the second unit. Scottie Pippen Jr., Luke Kennard. We'll leave that position open right now. I'll give you the other four. Scottie Pippen Jr., Luke Kennard, Santi Aldama, Brandon Clark. Where's your great rebounder in that group? Just real quick. Who's your great rebounder? Santi Aldama,
really have one.
Brandon Clark, Scottie Pippen, Luke Kennard. Yes, you do, because you got John Conchar. I'll leave it there. Because you got John Conchar, Joe. You have a great rebounder, and you know he's a great rebounder no matter how much you dislike his game. You got to admit, he's going to crash the glass, and he's going to sneak in and give you a couple boards. And that's what the second unit – my point there is the second unit needs that more so than Jaylen Wells shooting as of right now. But subject to change over the next couple preseason games. But as of right now, I think John Conchar still has the inside track.
Only Jaylen Wells played more minutes than John Conchar in that game against the Chicago Bulls. Guess how many three-point shots John Conchar took? Just guess.
What,
without even looking it up.
Did he take one? He
took two.
He took two?
Two three-pointers. I know.
There you go, John Conchar. Get him up.
Right?
John.
Get those shots up. It's ridiculous to argue for John Conchar at this point. In my opinion, he is white rice personified. He accentuates the Kung Pao chicken. He accentuates the beef and broccoli. He is not the guy that I want out there. I'm trying to expand the ceiling. I'm trying to raise things up. All people do is talk about the lack of depth. I was just on Locked On NBA on Monday talking with our boy Jackson. The concern of the Grizzlies don't have the same dudes that they had 2 years ago. That's why people are hesitant about this team. John Conchar was here 2 years ago, and we know what John Conchar is capable of. We do not know what Jaylen Wells is capable of. I am good with John Conchar being that break in case of emergency, injuries, all those sorts of things. I do not, at this stage, I would rather play LaRavia than John Conchar. Because you know what Jake LaRavia did in his 27 minutes played?
He's going to get some shots up.
He got up 16 shots. Now, he only made 5 of them, which is not great. But he made 2 threes, 2 of 7. He was 8 for 9 from the charity stripe, 9 rebounds to your rebounding point. I would like to see Wells because I think he just
LaRavia can rebound the basketball too. That's a good point.
But LaRavia can also rebound if you are not in on Wells yet. And I want to point out, I agree with your point that you and I can have this conversation about whether or not we believe in Jaylen Wells. Taylor Jenkins most certainly does not believe in Jaylen Wells yet. You're 100% correct there. If we're thinking about it from the perspective of Jenkins, I would rather it be LaRavia than Conchar. Let Damichael and I know in the comments. Hit us up on X. He's at Damichael C. I'm at Joe Mullinax. Who do you think should be that? Again, it's going to be Vince Williams Jr. eventually, right?
Without a doubt.
Who should be that guy until Vince Williams Jr. comes back? I'm leaning Jaylen Wells to Jake LaRavia. Damichael is kind of in the same boat, but he always takes it from Taylor Jenkins' perspective.
John Conchar's the guy right now.
It's going to be John Conchar. Let us know what you guys think in the comments. Happy to talk it out with you there. This episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL fans, the season is underway. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Say you get a hunch in the middle of the game, like my Commanders this past weekend, your Green Bay Packers, different levels of success this past weekend. I'll focus on my Commanders, a competitive game. The defense let us down, but my boy Jaden Daniels, he had a pretty impressive showing against one of the best teams and one of the best defenses in the National Football League. How do I feel about him? Pretty highly. So if I go in the middle of the game, I check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more, I can place a bet on that exact same page and be even more confident about what JD and company are going to do for the Washington Commanders. Check out FanDuel.com today. Again, get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's an amazing deal. $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Go and check it all out at FanDuel.com. So, Damichael, you mentioned the amazing performance from Jaylen Wells as a passer. Right? That was more of a surprise maybe than his 4 for 10 shooting from beyond the arc. His ability to facilitate offense. That's my biggest knock on Gigi Jackson. We've talked about that a lot. We need guys to be able to facilitate.
Jaren Jackson Jr., we talked about it with him.
Absolutely. So that's a sticking point for me. And I think to a lesser extent, perhaps it is for you as well. Zach Edey, okay? And this is not something that I need him to do at the level of a Wells or even a Jaren Jackson Jr., because I don't think that he's going to command as much attention as especially a Jaren. But the 4 assists from Zach Edey were extremely promising to me against the Bulls, because this is a guy who we are looking for ways to make him accentuate the guys that he's going to be playing with, and that's Ja Morant, that's Jaren Jackson Jr., that's Desmond Bane, Marcus Smart in that starting unit, assuming they're all healthy to go on opening night, which it sounds like they should be, at least as of now. Looking at Edey, he, and I said this on Locked On NBA today as well, they are not expecting him to be the guy from Purdue, right? They are expecting him to be that elite role player that you talk about all the time, Damichael. That's what they want from Edey. And rebounding, screen setting, rim protection, allowing Jaren to be that 4 and perhaps get back into the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. All those things are why Edey is here. Him being a passer is icing on the cake. But you watch this offense, you watch them cut, you watch them move, all the different things that they're trying to do in terms of varying how their scoring schemes click. The better that Edey can pass, especially even if you want to take the new scheme out of it, Damichael, if you just want to focus on when Edey is in there among other reserves, and they try to make him a focal point of the offense. Taylor Jenkins has talked about that before, trying to screen guys off, get set down in the paint, trying to get him the ball. They're going to start collapsing on him. They're going to double team him. They're going to try to stress and pressure him at that entry point. Is he able to make the extra pass to the open shooter in the corner or the slashing guy backside off of a cut? If he can do those things consistently, that just adds another level to this Grizzlies offense that they desperately need at any position, much less the big man spot.
Yeah, it's a connecting point of this offense, because you talk about the idea that Ja's going to be off the ball a little bit more. You're going to have, Bane, who likes to cut. Ja wants to showcase his cutting ability. He's rarely had a chance to do that. You go watch him at Murray State, you'll see some nasty backdoor Ja Morant cuts of him dunking on people and finishing layups around the rim. And we haven't seen that much, that part of his game in Memphis. And Zach Edey is the guy who can kind of show us some of that. I think Steven Adams had a good rapport with Desmond Bane, and he would find Desmond Bane cutting to the basket. That was one of the Grizzlies' top assist combinations, especially for Steven Adams to Desmond Bane. But with Zach Edey, this stands out to me. Zach Edey is a man of few words. Like, if you've heard any of his press conferences, media availabilities, he doesn't do too much talking. But one thing that he said, Joe, that stood out to me, and opened my eyes up wide. And he basically paraphrased and said that there's parts of my games that a lot of people don't even know about. And I'm thinking, what could he be talking about? We all know about the low post scoring. We all know about the hook shot. We know about the block shots. And then there was a different time. Again, man, a few words here. So when he starts to get a little expressive, it catches your attention. And there was a different time. He was saying, well, look, at Purdue, I was pretty much told, if one guy's on me, shoot the basketball. It's going to be different here. Just because he has one guy on him in Memphis does not mean shoot the basketball. You have one guy on you, guess what? Ja Morant might, quote unquote, technically have a defender on him, but Ja Morant might cut backside on that defender. Desmond Bane might cut. As we've talked about the idea with this new offense, where there's a lot of motion, right? It's not just a lot of stagnant standing around. When Zach Edey has the ball at Purdue and he's one-on-one, get out of the way and space the floor. In Memphis, guys are going to be cutting, so it'll give him more opportunity to showcase that skill. And I think that's what he was getting at when he says, it's some parts of my games that a lot of people don't know anything about. So, yeah, that was encouraging to see in Chicago. I want to see it with the starters. Quite frankly, that, it happening with the reserve group doesn't move me really too much, just being honest. I want to see it when those guys are in the lineup, because the ball distribution is going to be a little bit different. And I do think, as we talked about in the last episode, the idea that the Grizzlies will get him the ball more, and they will be more, strategic around the opportunities when he gets the ball. But as far as setting up the offense and things like that, that's something that's going to come in time. I think right now, where he is, he's off to a good start. And the passing out of doubles that we talked about, that's going to come with knowing the spacing of the NBA. Like, again, he's talked about spacing in the NBA a lot. Right now, I know everyone's the buzzword. Everyone knows what it is. It's pace. I was wondering how long we were going to go in this episode without saying the word pace. We made it 18 minutes. But, yeah, pace is the thing right now. So you're not going to see a lot of those Zach Edey getting the ball in the high post and guys cutting off of him, things like that. Probably early on in the regular season, you will as the season goes on. And that's when we get to see more of that Zach Edey as a sure element. But right now, I think he's in a good spot. And, Joe, you're 100% right. That is a very connecting part, I think, of what this offense can be. You need Zach Edey to be a sharer. You need him to command that attention and know what to do when that attention comes.
He may not have to be the guy, but opponents need to know that he can be the guy. And I do believe that is maybe one of those, we've talked about this a little bit before, why Edey is so polarizing. Some people think he's going to be the rookie of the year, right? Betting odds on FanDuel have him, I believe, just second behind Reed Sheppard, or he might even be in front of Reed Sheppard. Those are the two overall favorites, overwhelming favorites compared to the rest of the field for rookie of the year. So, and that makes sense to me, because Reed Sheppard can score the basketball as long as he's not playing the Oakland Grizzlies. He's a heck of a basketball
I knew it was coming.
Zach Edey against many more teams, not just, everybody but the Oakland Grizzlies. Zach Edey can do some special things too. And the opportunity is going to be there for Edey. And to me, that's one of the major differences comparing him to other rookies. I am not confused. I am concerned that the discipline that it's going to take, because there's going to be a game at some point early in the season. You know how it is, Damichael, October, November. It's the reason this in-season tournament exists, trying to make it mean more. People pay attention more. There's going to be a random Tuesday night game where Zach Edey scores 18 points and grabs 12 rebounds. And somebody's going to want us to talk about how Zach Edey should be more of a focal point of the offense. This is a marathon, not a sprint, right? This is a marathon, not a sprint. One of the best things about these new offensive looks to me is if they can get it clicking come February, March, that is when it's going to be best for this team. You want them playing their best approaching playoff time. If they're struggling or if they're depending on Edey more than maybe we thought they would early in the season, it's almost like a smaller micro version of what Jonas Valanciunas used to be for this team. And that is going to be something that I'm intrigued by, especially against reserves. I don't think Edey's as good as Jonas right now. I think he could be for sure. You have to respect the offensive game of Valanciunas. But I definitely think, again, random opponent that doesn't treat Edey with the respect that he should get, he could easily go on a quick 10-point burst. And we're talking about, should he be more of a focal point? No, he shouldn't. This is a larger sample size that we need to develop as time goes on. And Edey as a passer intrigues me more than him being 7'4" and the guy defending him being 6'8". Let Damichael and I know what you guys are thinking in the comments about Edey as a sharer. Are you as excited as me? You're a little more hesitant like Damichael. Hit us up and let us know what you're thinking of there. Damichael, another meaningless preseason game. I will get the opponent right this time. This is the Indiana Pacers. Speaking of pace, right? About 21 minutes into the episode, the Pacers are playing against Memphis. And I'm going to keep my vibe. I really don't want to talk about Tyrese Halliburton or Pascal Siakam. These guys may not even play, right? Depending on how the Pacers treat their preseason. If they do play, they might play 12 minutes, 14 minutes, 20 minutes. Memphis is going to still be without Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr. So it really doesn't matter on that front in terms of winning and losing. Competition, obviously, you don't want to get blown out. And what else I want to see is a continuation of cleaning up the things that have been concerns over the early parts of the preseason, the turnovers. You want them to look more comfortable in the offense. I'd like to see Zach Edey continue with his NBA-level conditioning. Again, there's that buzzword pace.
Yep.
He's not out of shape, but he's 7'4", 290 pounds. It's a different kind of shape, right? So finding that rhythm is something that I'm really interested in seeing. I love the idea of Edey playing alongside guys like Santi Aldama more because I think that's a pairing that we don't talk about as much that really matters a lot going forward with Aldama's spacing ability, Edey being able to cover up some defensive deficiencies that Santi maybe possesses. So there's lots of things to still kind of keep an eye on in this game, even though, they're playing against the Timberwolves, right? Actually, no, they're not. They're playing against the Pacers. I just literally don't care who they're playing.
Yeah. Joe, we're going to get through this preseason for you. We're going to get through this preseason. We're almost two games left. 2 games left. Pacers and then the Heat. Then we're done.
I do like how I believe the Grizzlies stayed out there in the Midwest, right?
They practiced at the
Chicago game.
Yep.
Right. I thought that was really smart, to be honest with you. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know I'm on a cold streak. The Heat game is at home.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Final one.
So this is it for the preseason. They get to stay home for a whole week, get a couple practices in. That's going to be really valuable for the team. I'm curious, Damichael, how you kind of see this last road game before they head out on their first mini road trip of the year to open up the season, how you see this kind of playing out or what you're looking for from the Grizzlies in this game.
For one, I want to see who's going to be available. Let's start there. Because I think the one guy probably like Zach Edey. I wonder if he's played all 3 games. He's started all games. I think he is the only player to have started all 3 of the Grizzlies preseason games at this point. Clearly, the Grizzlies want to give him as many reps as possible, but I haven't talked to anyone. I don't have any intel on whether he's going to be available or not. So that's just a curiosity thing for me, just on his availability. Other than that, it's still all about the young guys to me, and not just the young guys, the guys who have an opportunity to make kind of solidify themselves. Scottie Pippen Jr. again. I still want to see a little bit more. I think he's been solid. And again, he's a point guard learning a new offense. Completely understandable. But he ran the show in the summer league as they kind of started sprinkling in, the concepts of this new offense or the ideas of this new offense. And then so far, you've seen moments where he's been really good. He started the last game. He was solid overall. Want to see him continue to progress, there as well. But again, Jaylen Wells too. Again, a chance for him to stack good performances on top of one. That's the main thing when it comes to a rookie. Sure, you just had 24 points and 6 assists the other night. Can you come back with 18 points and 4 assists, and make 3 or 4 3-pointers again? Or is it going to be 10 points and 4-15 shooting? And then it's like, I'm really focusing on the young guys again. The older players really don't have much to prove to me. Quite frankly, I don't care what Luke Kennard, John Conchar, or Santi Aldama do with this grouping on the floor. I want to see what Luke Kennard's doing when he's on the floor with Ja Morant. I want to see what Santi's doing when he's on the floor with Ja Morant. Because, again, when the Grizzlies run their groupings and their pairings and those guys come in the second quarter, they're probably going to be playing more with Ja Morant and spacing the floor free with him. So I want to see, more what those guys are going to do with those groupings. So, it's all about the young guys still for me in this game. Who is going to solidify themselves? Scottie Pippen Jr. has to put zero doubt in the minds of people that, hey, I'm the backup point guard, and I just wasn't handed this. I earned this. And then with that spot that we're talking about, Jake LaRavia, he's had his moment 2 games ago. Jake LaRavia was really good. Last game, up and down. Defensively, he's been solid. He's made a couple threes here and there. He's had some playmaking moments. His off-ball defense has, I think, been better than his on-ball defense. He's really jumped the passing lanes a couple times, made some plays. I want to see Jake LaRavia, see how he continues to progress there. I want to see if John Conchar is going to be able to, and that's another guy. I really just want to see him do, the dirty work. I could really care less about how many shots he makes on the floor with these guys, because these shots are going to look different than the ones he's going to get when some of the other guys who should be available at the start of the regular season are back. So it's all about the young players for me.
Well, first off, if we're talking about young players, we shouldn't be talking about John Conchar because he's like 100 years old in basketball years. John Conchar is also, we don't need to worry about.
Does White Rice age? Like, is there an expiration date on White Rice?
No, that's another White Rice comparison. It'll outlast long of us.
I know I got some White Rice in the cabinet that's been in there for a little bit over a year.
I would probably throw that away.
Throw it away.
I also agree that it doesn't matter what shots John Conchar gets because he's not going to take them. Right, he's just not going to shoot the basketball. So those are all valid points.
I guess I set you up for that one.
That was a softball. You threw that up for me. Yes, you did.
Yeah, that was easy.
I'm intrigued by how that group competes together. And Scottie Pippen Jr. is a great name because at the end of this all, that is the one major question that still remains, right?
Yeah.
We're 9 days away from opening night, and the Grizzlies still have an open roster spot. They literally have to do something. Right. Well, they have 2, yes, but they have to do something with the 1, right? They can leave one open if they wanted to. They have to bring in somebody, and that somebody could just be converting Scottie Pippen Jr. to a full NBA contract and signing somebody else to a 2-way deal. It's possible Memphis is waiting because they want to see who comes available in waivers, people getting cut, that sort of thing. That makes logical sense. Yeah. But Scottie Pippen Jr. needs to keep building up a resume, right? Keep building up a body of work. The guy that you're looking for is right in front of your face. I do think that there's real value in that. And I'm impatient. I think I posted on X, it should be him or Markelle Fultz. I don't know why they're waiting. I do know why they're waiting. It's the logical thing. But the most likely scenario is that it's going to be Scottie Pippen Jr. and just continuing to build up that body of work is really going to be important for him continuing tonight against the Indiana Pacers. Thank you guys so much for being with us. Oh, go ahead, Damichael. I'm sorry.
No. I just said pretty much just echoing what you said. With Scottie Pippen Jr., I think he's the main player that I want to watch. He is the guy who is in line to take advantage of this opportunity. He is the guy who, coming into our next episode, we need a little bit more clarity there. We know what he did in Summer League. We know what he did towards the end of last season. But it'll be good to see him kind of be a little bit more be a little bit more productive, I guess, as we go into these last couple preseason games.
Coming up on our next episode of Locked On Grizzlies, obviously we'll be reviewing what happened against the Indiana Pacers, talking about Scottie Pippen Jr. and the others that logged minutes for the Grizzlies in the contest. I'm assuming that Memphis will be off on Tuesday because they'll be traveling back. They had stayed out for several days out in the Midwest. Probably be back into practice Wednesday, and we'll maybe kind of play the role of Taylor Jenkins a little bit. What we'd like to see in these last couple of practices because as you know, partner, it's about to get really crazy for these guys. And practice time shrinks considerably once the season begins.
Yep.
So the couple of days this week, they play on Friday against the Heat. Then they don't play again until Wednesday, right? So they maybe have 4 or 5 practices left before that game with the Utah Jazz and it starts to count. Maybe we kind of project what we hope is happening at these practices to continue to gel and see that chemistry manifest. It might be as simple as just looking over with what the guys are doing with the trainers.
Yeah, I can't emphasize enough. They're still installing a lot of things.
Right.
Like it is still very early in the installation process. Like that's why we've set the pace stuff so much, because that has been the emphasis so far. When it comes to running sets and things like that, like right now, it's more of this positionless, a free-flowing type of offense. And they'll eventually incorporate, as Taylor Jenkins said this himself, when Ja Morant gets back, they'll start to incorporate more things for him. When Jaren Jackson Jr. gets back, guess what? They're going to incorporate some stuff for him. And then I was talking to Luke Kennard. He said, yeah, right now we're trying to get Zach Edey the ball, but eventually we're going to have some stuff incorporated where it's going to be designed for him to get the ball. They haven't done much of that yet. So I want to, caution people, like they're just out there. They're emphasizing what is going to be the most important part of this offense, which is the pace. And then everything else, again, this week of practice, as you said, it's an important week because they're going to start to take steps in some of those other areas. And then as the season starts, you'll start to see them sprinkle in little bits and pieces as the season goes on.
Even with a slower week for games, there's still plenty to talk about here on Locked On Grizzlies as the season approaches. Also might be a good opportunity for us in a couple episodes, partner, to give our season predictions, right? Maybe we
it's about that time. It's about that time.
Make some hot takes, perhaps. We'll talk more about that and more on future episodes of Locked On Grizzlies. Make sure you're liking, commenting, rating, reviewing, subscribing wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, all those great places. Thank you all again for getting us over 4,000 subscribers on YouTube. It's appreciated. Let's keep those numbers growing. Keep the good vibes rising here at Locked On Grizzlies. As soon as this episode's over, you should be checking out Locked On Fantasy Basketball with our boy Josh Lloyd. He is doing a phenomenal job getting you ready for your fantasy basketball season. Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Go check that out as soon as Locked On Grizzlies is finished. For Damichael, I'm Joe. Stay locked in. Enjoy the game tonight against the Bulls or the Pacers or the Timberwolves, whoever the hell it is. It should be a good contest. We'll talk about it tomorrow. We'll catch you then. See ya.